What? You love him already? Anyway, which I love. I love the thinking that he likes her thing. Like, I love that. Fly or die. This is giving Reese and Faye Rob. Ooh, tomato, Kate Dane. Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. A bitch is back talking about books. It is finally my favorite time of the year. It's fall season, cuffing season, as people say. It is cold weather. I can wear cold weather outfits. Finally wearing my Harry Otter crew neck, one of my favorite crew necks ever, with one of my favorite animals ever on it. I think it's very fitting for my book channel. I love this time of the year. I just get a sense of nostalgia around this time of year. I love the feeling of being really single. I mean, I don't love the feeling, but it is what I feel every time around this time of the year. Today, for this video, we are going to be talking about this book, Fourth Wing. Is it good? Is it worth the hype? Is it what everybody on TikTok is saying? Is it just that book? And I will start off by saying I think it's actually a pretty good book. I gave it around a 4 out of 5 stars. It's not the best book I've ever read in the entire world. It's not what I felt when reading The Hunger Games or A Court of Thorns and Roses. It wasn't insanely obsessed with it, but did I have a hell of a good time reading this? Abso-fucking-lutely. So let's get into it. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. This is Fourth Ring by Rebecca Yarros. It is the first book to an ongoing series. I think she said that she was planning on writing a 5-book arc for this story, and this book is definitely a setup book. Everything that happens in this is build up and setup. And if you don't know anything about what this book is about, it is a fantasy book about dragon riders. It is a fantasy young adult book about dragon riders, and in a world, so they have the little map in the front. It is a world where humans, they go to college and pick whichever basically career they want to go into. You can be a scribe, you can be a rider, which is a dragon rider, you can be a healer. There's different places in life that you can go to. It's basically like picking your major in college. And there's 4 or 5 different quadrants. They call this, like, this is basically what the majors are. In college, there's around 4 or 5 of them. We follow the main character. Her name is Violet Soaringale. She's basically a Nepo baby, and her entire life, she's wanted to be a scribe, writing down history, what happens in history, keeping records of things. She's like a recorder. But her entire family is a family full of ultra powerful dragon riders, and dragon riders are at the top of the food chain in this society. They rule everything. They are the military of this world. They hold the most power, and Violet's mom is a very, very famous dragon rider. Her brother, who passed away, his name was Brennan, he was a dragon rider. Her sister also went to school to be a dragon rider, and Violet and her dad also passed away, were the 2 people who followed the route of wanting to be a scribe. The book starts off with Violet hating her life because she is a Nepo baby. Her mom pushes her to be a dragon rider and to go into dragon riding school. She is basically forced into this position where she has to go to this war college of dragon riders and see if she will survive, because if you follow Violet going into the school, you soon realize as you read this that it is very scary and a lot of people die right off the bat. You have to go through a series of tests. Those tests are very dangerous. For example, in the very beginning of the book, to even get to the war college, which is up in the mountains, you have to pass this thing called a parapet. And the parapet is like it's basically like a bridge to get to the college. It's a very thin bridge, and if you fall off, you fall to your death because it's very high up. And it's just this tiny little walkway. Hundreds of people die. Fly or die. Right from the bat, you understand the stakes are really high. Violet does not even want to be there, but she's forced to be there. And not only is she forced, she has a high likelihood of dying, because they say this a lot. She's little skinny Violet, weak Violet, little white Violet is so weak and skinny and weak Violet. That's her, okay? throughout the whole book. And so she is definitely an underdog because of her family name, because she's a Nepo baby, because everybody knows who her family is. A lot of people have it out for her. A lot of people want to kill her. And yeah, that's basically where we start off the book. If you want to get the vibes of the book, it's basically a bunch of different YA books put into one. It's giving How to Train Your Dragon meets Divergent meets The Hunger Games meets Game of Thrones meets American Ninja Warrior in college vibes. All of these things like are basically put into one book, and it's a copy and paste of Divergent in a way. It's Violet choosing a faction, how they do in Divergent, and getting the most dangerous faction and trying to survive because people die learning about the faction. So yeah, this is her first year in Word College. That's my summary of what the book's about. Did I like the book? Did I hate it? What did I think? I have a lot of different opinions, and we're going to go one by one through each opinion that I had about the details of the book. If you haven't read the book, I would suggest you go read it right now, and then I'm just going to get into my overall thoughts of specific things within the book. From the very beginning, we start off Violet at the parapet. First of all, I was so confused reading about the parapet. I had to look up what a parapet was, and then even then, looking up pictures of a parapet, I could not visualize it for the life of me. I didn't understand how we got from point A, signing in, checking in, to go into the college and getting onto the parapet, like how she got from there to the parapet, and how that from being on the bottom, she got to the top and then had to go through this thing, and then she jumps off of it, and then all of a sudden I just didn't understand the visual of it. And I thought that was just me. I thought I was just a dumbass bitch, but apparently a lot of people had problems visualizing the parapet. That I see TikTok videos of people saying Violet going on the parapet, this, that, and the third, like actually trying to visualize it. So I think one of the main things that I had trouble with this book is that the writing was really hard to visualize. I don't think it was descriptive enough in a lot of the places that it needed to be. That goes for the parapet, that goes for the gauntlet. If you have read the book, you understand what I'm talking about. These things were just really not descriptive enough, and I was really confused reading it, to be honest. And I think that was the one downside about reading the book. When it comes to the gauntlet, which is around halfway through the book, you have to complete basically an obstacle course that is vertical against a mountain, and the way that they describe it is a little bit more visual than the parapet, but it was still really hard to visualize it. I visualized it like American Ninja Warrior, and then the last part where it's like a crescent shape, it's like the warp wall. And if I never watched American Ninja Warrior, if I didn't already know about American Ninja Warrior, I don't think I would visualize the gauntlet at all. And I would be really, really confused reading that too. I did like that they basically put all of the YA tropes in here. All of the YA books that you could imagine, it is in here, okay? It is so How to Train Your Dragon. I love the dragons in this. They are very sassy, and the relationship and the bond between the riders and the dragons, really well done. I think the stakes in the book overall about how close you are to death every single day, how you have to watch your back all of the time, really, really well done. The one thing that actually was a downside for me, and maybe I have trust issues, maybe this is my trust issues talking, but the side characters, like some of them, for example, I loved Liam, loved Xaden, the main character, yes, Dane, obviously, boo, tomato, hate Dane. But from the beginning of the book, Violet makes a friend. Her name is Rhiannon. The entire book, maybe it's my trust issues talking, I did not trust this bitch for a second. I did not understand a thing about Rhiannon. To me, the entire book, Rhiannon, might be an unpopular opinion. Rhiannon annoyed the fuck out of me, and I was waiting for her to backstab Violet. Every single second. I did not trust her in the slightest. Maybe this is because of all the other books that I've read where the quote-unquote best friend backstabs the main character. But I didn't really like the scenes that she was in. She kind of felt one note. I didn't see her as a fully realized character and someone that I understood her entire life story about. It was definitely a weak point of the book for me, and it might be my trust issues talking, but I didn't really like her. I was just waiting for her to stab Violet in the back. And there's this entire scene in the middle of the book where It's one of the best scenes of the book where Violet in the middle of the night wakes up automatically and sees 4 or 5 people surround her and try to kill her in her sleep, trying to kill Violet. And all of a sudden, it's this big scene, time stops. She barely makes it alive. Xaden comes in, who's like the main male love interest, kills all of them, and she sees from the corner of her eye someone escape, and she sees that it's a girl, and whoever that girl is a mystery. Tell me why, for the next 100 pages of the book, I was like, that's Rhiannon. It's fucking Rhiannon. I knew this bitch was sleazy, and it ended up not being her. I was like, for some reason, so untrustworthy of the best friend character. She just wasn't a fully realized character for me, which is really interesting because a lot of the times when I read books, I fall in love with the best friend character more so than I do with the main character, but it just wasn't it for this book. Like I said, this is basically a copy and paste with plot points and ideas from every other thing that you can imagine. It has the Divergent, it has How to Train Your Dragon, it has the Hunger Games imagery and vibes. All of those ideas are put into one book. It also has ACOTAR vibes because of the bond between the dragons and the humans. Then now Xaden, who's the main male love interest, the enemies to lovers love interest, and Violet also have that bond, and they can speak to each other through their minds. This is giving Rhys and Feyre, they can communicate through the bond, and they even have a whole conversation about, you can cut me off, you can block me off from the bond, and you can train yourself how to cut me off. And they have entire scenes in A Court of Thorns and Roses series about how she can cut herself off from Rhysand and her bond. I was like, this is the same exact plot points. But even so, even though I've read this time and time again, it was still really fun to read. I thought the buildup of the story was really well done. This is what I mean by copy and paste of everything else. Like, every single scene I've read in this book, I'm like, I read this somewhere else, and it so vividly came out. So there is a plot point in the book where her dead dad, Violet's dead dad, gave Violet a fairy tale storybook. The whole book, she's like trying to find this fairy tale storybook. And then she opens it up and sees a hidden letter in this fairy tale storybook. And to me, when I read that, I was like, has anyone seen A Cinderella Story? Because this is such a Cinderella Story vibes, where the dead dad hides very important papers inside a fairy tale book, aka in A Cinderella Story, he hides the will inside a fairy tale storybook. And then in this book, Violet finds some like letter from her dead dad in a fairy tale storybook. I'm like, I've seen every single plot point in another source of media. I still had fun with it though. I think if you've never gotten into fantasy or romantasy, which is a romance fantasy, if you've never read books like that before, this is a really good place to start off. Just because it does have all the elements from all of these different forms of media, and also because the world building, the definitions that you need to understand and learn, it was very, very easy to get through. It wasn't insane world building. They didn't need a thesaurus in the beginning of the book. You didn't need to memorize definitions to all of these different locations and places and names and how to pronounce these names. You didn't need any of that. The vocabulary was very ingrained in our modern world. So I think if you want to get into fantasy, if you want to kind of learn about it, this is a great place to start because the world building is really, really easy. And it kind of slowly creeps into there. The politics is not really there because it's a character development story. It's Violet just vibing, trying to survive college. It's like Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, but for college dragon school instead of middle or high school. It's very simple. You don't need to understand the politics as much. I think I can see the potential of the second and third book having to learn a lot more about the politics, but I like that it kind of slowly builds it in there. This book is entirely set up and build up. Nothing else really that you need to know. I would suggest reading it if you've never read fantasy before. Now I want to get into the romance portion of the book. I thought the romance was well done. This romance, it wasn't my all-time favorite romance either. People fall in love with Xaden. His whole back and forth thing about, oh, I want to be with you, but I can't be with you. And I already knew from the beginning, I knew where his story was leading. I've read enough fantasy. I knew where this was leading. I knew that he was going to be, like, spoiler alert, okay? That he was going to be a part of some sort of rebellion and this, that, and the third, and all these little meetings with the side characters. He's not on Violet's side. Violet's family is a very, very high war family, you know. I understood his torment of not wanting to be with her, but wanting to be with her, and the whole enemies to lovers, star-crossed lovers type situation that this whole book did. But tell me why it fucking annoyed the shit out of me, because they did this whole back and forth for like 50, 60 pages. Usually I do a good job of understanding the subtext and understanding the character's emotions, even though it's not in their point of view. So it wasn't in Xaden's point of view, but it was kind of hard for me to understand his subtext too, because his whole thing was, I can't be with you. Like, we should just hook up because I'm not right for you. I don't want to fall for you. Don't fall for me. But then they still hook up. It went on for like 50, 60, 70 pages of this whole back and forth. I can't be with you. Don't be with me. But he wanted to be with her. It annoyed me. This whole conflict, we could have saved 50 pages and just avoided this whole internal conflict that he goes through, because he says, like, you don't know the real me. I didn't understand his internal thought process because it's obviously not in his point of view. But then there's a whole scene towards the end of the book where Violet and Xaden are on the parapet again and they're just talking to each other. And Violet just wants him so bad. Violet's like, I need you, I want you, I love you. I'm like, motherfucker, what? You love him already? Anyway, and she's like, I love you. I know you have feelings for me. I know this isn't just a hookup thing. I know you really want me. She says all this to him, and he's like, fuck it, fine. I want to be with you. Don't leave me. I want to be with you, and I'm going to have you. And I was like, bitch, what? Why? Like, I don't understand what made him, I don't know. Like, I just wish we got more in his head, because his whole flip, he was so quick with it, okay? Some of the romance lines in this also is so cheesy, utterly cheesy. He goes from hating her, quote unquote hating her, and hating that he likes her, which I love. I love the hating that he likes her thing. Like, I love that. It goes from 0 to 100. They're literally like fighting for their lives in like another city or town, and then he kisses her. And right after, he's trying to deny her. He's trying to deny her the whole time. And then they're fighting for their lives. And then he just looks at her and he's like, fuck it. He kisses her. And then off they go. Right after that, he's all lovey-dovey. It's so sudden to me. Maybe it was when I saw Oren holding a knife to your throat. Or maybe it was when I realized the bruises on your neck were fingerprints and I wanted to kill them all over again just so I could do it slowly. Maybe it was the first time I recklessly kissed you, or when I realized I'm fucked because I can't stop thinking about doing more than just kissing you. Does it even matter when, as long as it changed between us? The quotes in this were so cheesy. I'm sorry. The lines were copy and paste from like a million Wattpad romances that I've read before. I just couldn't imagine it coming out of Xaden's mouth for some reason. I don't know. Maybe that's a me thing. Even though overall I still liked the romance, I just hated the whole back and forth and the whole conflict. No, I can't be with you. Stay away from me. Like the bad boy shit.
I don't want you. Get away. Come here. Go away.
And then he ends up saying like, fuck it, and then wanting to be with her. But then even when he's doing that, he's not taking into account that he's a part of a whole motherfucking rebellion. How are you gonna say you want to be with her? It's only temporary or whatever. And then you didn't think about the whole rebellion part of it. Also, see, this is what I'm saying, is that a lot of the ideas in this are copy and pasted. Towards the end of the book, there's a lot of reveals about the world. You understand more about the politics. There's this thing called Venin. Venin are basically zombies of this world, and they were told to be myth, told to be not real. They don't exist. It's just a fairy tale. It's like Bigfoot in our world. Like, Bigfoot doesn't exist. In this fantasy world, Venin does not exist. But apparently, outside the walls of Violet City, it does exist. And Xaden knows that. All of the political leaders know that, but it's because Venin exists outside of their walls, outside of the barrier and the wards that are placed around their city. That city does not give a shit about anyone else living around them and wants their own city to live in peace and harmony, but only for them. It doesn't want to help save the entire rest of the world. It becomes a huge plot point towards the end of the book. A bunch of the dragon riders have to fight off the Venin. And tell me why, when they were describing the Venin and they were describing the entire politics of what was going on, it was giving White Walkers from Game of Thrones. White Walkers don't exist. This is not a huge threat. They're just folklore. They're just fairy tale. Then, oh, White Walkers do exist. But we want, like, it's literally copy and paste from Game of Thrones White Walkers story plot. Venin is the exact same thing, and there's a very specific way that you have to kill Venin, and it's similar to White Walkers. It's very copy and pasted. I still enjoyed it though. I still think it's good. Another character I'll talk about is Dane. I love to hate him, and I think that they did a really good job at making him hateable. Loved it. I thought he had really good character building. Okay. Then we get to the last page of this book. This is where I'll say is also a little bit of a plot hole. At the end, there is a cliffhanger and there is a reveal. And that actually got me, okay? I'm spoiling the book here. I said to read the book before you come watch this video, but the end of the book ends with us realizing this entire book, Violet talks about how her brother died trying to save another. Her brother was a good person. The reveal at the end is that her brother, Brennan, is actually not dead. He is alive and fully well and working with Xaden and with the rebellion against his and Violet's mom and family and city or country, I guess. Tell me why I actually was so shocked reading that. I literally gasped. I gasped. I have a video clip. I will put it up right here. The gasp, I just gasped. I'm on the last page of this damn book, okay? I literally gasped. I literally jaw dropped. That is a good cliffhanger. What they did there, that's a good cliffhanger, because out of all the predictable shit that happens in this book, I did not see that last one coming. I'm shocked. Anyway, that got me good. And I will give Rebecca Yarros props for that, because I actually was not expecting that. And I think I've read too many books where I kind of expect a lot of things from it. A lot of things in this book were predictable, but that got me. I really, really liked it. But then at the same time, there is another plot point where a lot of Xaden and his friends says something in the book, and it's quoted in the book about no Sorrengail would do the right thing. Throughout the entire book, it's said over and over again. Xaden is told by his friends or by other people, don't expect a Sorrengail to do the right thing. And Violet says it too. They only have their own backs. But the entire time, that doesn't make sense for Xaden to think, or his entire friend group to think, because Brennan is Violet's brother. They are siblings. He is a Sorrengail. I don't know. That was a plot hole that, I don't know. What I did like about the book as well is, the best thing I liked about this book is that it is a very much a character-driven book. You follow Violet from the very beginning, and it is her growth throughout it. Her character journey, and she changes so much from the beginning to the end. She mentions it too. There are 2 or 3 points where she has to cross the parapet. In the beginning, she is scared. She's scared that she's gonna die. She has no confidence. She just thinks that she can't do it, and she thinks that she will not survive. You get to the end, she crosses the parapet like it's nothing. And she's so strong, she's so courageous, and has so much more confidence and power too. She mentions it herself. Seeing that character growth between page 40 to page 400 is just so satisfying to read. And I think that was the best part of the book. Over the romance, over the world building, over the copy and paste plots that you will get from any other form of media that you've ever read. To me, my favorite part was Violet and her journey. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts on this book. I will be continuing the series. I think it was a really fun, easy read. 4 out of 5 stars. I still loved the romance, even though I thought it was a little cheesy at times. I love the world, even though I've read this world a million times before. It is a good starter book to get into fantasy. So those are my thoughts on Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Sorry, this video, I just had so many thoughts and they were so jumbled and I couldn't organize them right. It's a little of a messy review. Please let me know your thoughts down below if you've read the book. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.